Hi, New Hope. Pastor Christy here. We've been talking about the life of Joseph. Joseph has gone from slavery to prison. He's been lied about, cheated about, cheated. His reputation has been completely dragged through the mud. And he is in prison. He's forgotten. The people he's been kind to haven't even remembered him. And yet he has maintained an attitude and a dignity and a faith towards God. He has maintained that the one thing the Egyptians haven't been able to take from him is his faith in the one true God and his desire to serve him. Now, towards the end of the story, we get to see how God is going to use these evil things people have done to him to actually bring good into many people's lives. We have a situation where Pharaoh has a dream that completely terrifies him, but he doesn't know the meaning of it. His cupbearer remembers Joseph finally and tells Pharaoh that there is someone who can interpret dreams. When Joseph is brought before Pharaoh, it's very interesting. He could have taken the credit himself. Oh, I am such a worthy person that God tells me the meaning of dreams. But he doesn't. He's completely humble. In fact, it's kind of startling the way he starts off. He says, I can't tell you the meaning of the dreams, but the God that I serve can. I wonder if he said that really fast to make sure he didn't lose his head between the first part of the sentence and the second. But here he is able to tell Pharaoh about the famine, about preparing and storing the grain, and he's able to give a just and a good idea of how to handle this. Pharaoh is so impressed both with his humility, his integrity, and his plan to actually implement to save his people, that he takes Joseph from the prison and puts him in a position basically as the prime minister of Egypt. And he even marries him to a high powerful daughter of a priest. And during this first 7 years, Joseph has 2 sons. And God starts to bring some of the horrible things in Joseph's life. He starts to bring some silver linings to them. I had someone say one time to me regarding the situation that Joseph went through such a difficult boot camp. He went from a position where he learned the language as a slave of Potiphar. Maybe he learned military command because Potiphar was one of the head generals. He learned how to manage other people. He went through a managerial internship under Potiphar. Then he gets moved to the prison. The prison is full of court prisoners. He learns what pleases the king, what doesn't please the king. He learns the character and the nature of the king he will be later serving. He learns what things are happening in court, the backroom dealings. He learns all of this because he's dealing with court prisoners every day. He's not thrown to the lions in the middle of a court that I'm sure had a lot of ins and outs and secrets. He's not just thrown out there. God prepares him for years and then puts him in this position. Joseph had a lot of inside information because of the places he had been interning as a slave and then as a prisoner. So Joseph is exalted to this position, and he manages it amazingly well. At this point in time, he is still a Hebrew, but he looks a lot like an Egyptian. He's grown up a lot. I mean, you think of the last 17-year-old that you know, and think of them 13 years later. I'm sure physically he changed. He's a more powerful young man. The Egyptians a lot of times would shave off all of the hair of their head. They would use makeup. They would do all kinds of things. I've heard people scoff at the idea that Joseph's brothers didn't recognize him. But if I suddenly found one of my brothers 13 years later who was wearing makeup and no hair, I might not recognize him either. So here we have this scenario where Joseph's brothers are looking for food. They're coming to buy food from this powerful person in Egypt. And this is one of Joseph's final tests. He has maintained a good character and a good standing all the way through this time. But will he forgive? Will he be just when he is put in a position of power without even thinking or a blink, no one thinking anything about it? He could put his tormentors to death. It would have been so easy. These men are spies. Take them out and execute them. They wouldn't have even known who did it to them. His father would never have known, but that's not what he does. However, he shows a strange shrewdness. He doesn't immediately forgive them. He doesn't immediately tell them who he is. He tests them. He wants to know, are they worthy of being put in a position where they can possibly hurt somewhere else? Have they changed? God has worked on his heart. Has God continued to work on his brothers' hearts? And we see that, yes, they have changed. God and their consciences have been working on them for a long time. When all of this bad stuff just seemingly seems to happen to the brothers, there's one point where they're talking among themselves, thinking no one else can understand the language. And they say, surely God is judging us for what we did to Joseph. So first, one of them is put in prison, and the rest are sent home to go get Benjamin. He wants to see if Benjamin is still alive, or have they killed him, like they tried to kill Joseph. He wants to see that his brother is actually alive. I kind of wonder, what prison cell was that brother put into for holding? Was he put into the prison cell that Joseph lived in? I wonder at times. Then they're brought back, and they're set out at a table, perfectly by age. The whole family is from oldest to youngest, even the one that's been in prison. And they start to think, maybe God's showing this man something. Maybe he's a seer. And they actually start to worry about that God is punishing them through this powerful man. It finally comes down to the point where he gets them in such a tight position, such a difficult to maneuver position. And then he pins it on Benjamin. And he wants to see, when it comes down to it, will they lie? Will they run? Will they let Benjamin take the heat for something he didn't do? And they pass the test. They don't do it. Reuben steps forward and offers to take Benjamin's position. And for the first time, Reuben is taking responsibility for one of his younger brothers. Suddenly, money isn't more important to them, and their own skins aren't more important to them than this family relationship that they should have been caring for all the time. Joseph is overwhelmed. He starts to cry. He sends everyone out of the room except for himself and his brothers. And suddenly, out of this Egyptian comes the voice and the language of their own people. And Joseph starts to tell them who he is. The brothers are kind of surprised. They fall down and they are terrified. They're expecting instant death when they realize who they're actually speaking to. But Joseph reassures them. The first thing he wants to know is my father alive? Is my family alive? And then he tells them, no, I'm not going to kill you. They had justified fears. He tells them, what you meant for evil, and yes, you meant it for evil. He doesn't deny that. What you meant for evil, God used for good, to keep many people alive, not just his own family, but the entire country of Egypt. They were spared because of the internships, the boot camp that Joseph had gone through, the training he had to have before he could fulfill the position. God cares more about our character than he does about our comfort. And I will tell you, there have been times where God has put me in a position where I have squirmed and been very uncomfortable. And I have to realize that God doesn't care about my comfort right now. He has bigger plans in mind. It's kind of like when your child wants the comfort of a candy bar, when you know they need the real nutrition of a full cooked meal. They might cry, throw themselves on the ground, and squirm. Can you tell I have an almost 2-year-old? But instead, you tell them, no, you need to eat your food first. Maybe we'll have candy later. Or maybe you say, forget the candy, you're eating a good meal. But we have these scenarios where God acts as a loving parent to us. Maybe you even have a scenario where another child is unjust to your child. That's really hard to handle. I know my mom did an amazing job of teaching me that there were principles greater than just the front ones. She taught me how to pray for those who had been unjust to me, how to forgive them. And on the back end, she was working to make sure I wasn't abused or hurt. And as parents, I think we need to balance both of those. We need to help our children work through the forgiveness aspect of it and what to do when this happens, because this does happen in our world, and also act as a protective boundary and border for our children. God does that for us. He does both sides of it. And the amazing thing is he knows the entire picture. We don't have to just rely on this tiny scope of light coming through. He sees the entire thing. So again, my question to you, who in your life has treated you unjustly and you have refused to forgive? Refusing to forgive is like drinking poison and hoping your enemy will die. The only one who will become sick is you. Bitterness and unforgiveness, they poison the soul of the one who holds it, not the offender. Jesus said, if you don't forgive others, I can't forgive you. It's actually one of the things he commands us to do. Now, there are certainly situations where we need to get in a safe place. I'm not going to reach my hand into a fence where a dog has just bitten me, right? You get into a safe place where you're not going to be abused again, where you're protected. And then you work through forgiveness. It's a choice. It's not an emotion. The emotion follows after a long period of choosing the right action, willing yourself to choose it. Eventually, the emotions come, but they don't come quickly and they don't come easily. So that's my challenge to you. I know it's a difficult challenge, but Joseph's life was difficult. But look at the amazing things that God did with Joseph. He fulfilled his dreams. He fulfilled the destiny he had for him. And I think Joseph would tell you that it was worth all the pain. Will your life be?